website if he wants. So we have members, many members, who actually watch the testimony online now. But what I'd like to do is get started to make sure we can meet our deadline to be done here by about 10:45 prior to session. Today we will have four testifiers. The first group is, if gentlemen would come up, Mr. George Romanoff, the executive director or member of the Pennsylvania Association of Firearm Retailers and also the president of Ace Sporting Goods in Washington County, and Mr. Joseph Keffer, the president of the National Association of Firearm Retailers and president of the Sportsman Shop, which I don't know where that is. But gentlemen, if you could come up and please be seated. All the members of our committee have been given copies of your testimony yesterday. We would ask, we have allotted approximately half an hour. Would ask that, if possible, making sure that we try to stay within that time period. Please feel free to start when you're ready.
Good morning. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm Joe Keffer. I'm the owner and operator of independent retail.
Joe, can you put your microphone on, please?
Oh. There we go. Good morning. My name is Joe Keffer. I own and operate a retail firearms business in New Holland, Pennsylvania that was started in 1954. I am president of the National Association of Firearms Retailers, president of the Pennsylvania Association of Firearms Retailers, and sit on the board of governors of the National Shooting Sports Foundation. I mention this because in that capacity I have an opportunity to interact with firearms dealers from across the country that operate in both point-of-contact states and states that are served by NICS. The contrast between our experiences dealing with PICS and the experiences of those retailers that deal with NICS is striking. First, let me say that all of the stakeholders, the dealers in particular, we are most interested in the firearms not getting in the hands of the wrong people. We support that. We do everything that we can do to make sure that happens or doesn't happen. And so get that out of the way first. That is our priority. Since the inception of PICS, there have been a significant number of issues that have made the professional and efficient operation of our businesses difficult, to say the least. I would like to point out a few broad issues and let some specific examples be pointed out by Mr. Romanoff and Mr. Stauffer. In the beginning, when the check system came out, the NICS system was obviously the most publicized, and they talked about the need to reach a decision in 3 days, and at that point, at the dealer's option, if there was not a decision reached, they could release the firearm if they saw fit. Immediately, it was pointed out to us that PICS had determined that it wasn't 3 days, it was 5 days. That 5 days ultimately has evolved into 15 days, and then ultimately at the end of 15 days, they can issue a determination that is undetermined, and they then have 60 days to resolve that. Another issue, back in 2007, we received an announcement that we would be unable to complete background checks for 3 or 4 days over the Labor Day weekend. That's one of the busiest periods in firearm sales. This was they made it very clear to point out that the PICS system was not down, it just could not access the criminal database. Fortunately, it did not take 3 or 4 days. They got it done in about a day and a half. Another issue, PICS, using their quote-unquote regulatory authority, at one point determined that Thompson Center Encores and Contenders in all configurations, even those sold as muzzleloaders, were to be regulated and treated as handguns. You had to do the record of sale, and could not be sold to a person that was not a resident of Pennsylvania and could not be sold to a person who was under 21. The basis for that, you can take the stock off, you can change the barrel, you can change that frame into a handgun. They also plan to apply that same logic to the AR platforms. We challenged that. They then sought support from ATF on these decisions. ATF did not support their position, and ultimately PICS reversed their position on both the Thompson Center issue and never implemented the requirement on the AR platforms. Over the years, the PAFR has requested an open dialogue in an effort to better understand the issues that have a negative impact on our business, as well as have an opportunity to provide input on ways to resolve these problems. These requests have been largely ignored, and today we continue to battle many of these same issues every day. The businesses of 2,400 federal firearms license holders in Pennsylvania suffer as a result. If the state police want to be in the retail business, they should be responsive to problems that impact their customers, or surely revenue, economic impact, and jobs will be negatively affected. As I mentioned, George and Kim will get into a few more specific details of issues that we run into. Our industry is proud of its strong presence and economic impact in Pennsylvania. We are equally mindful of the important role sportsmen and firearms owners play in Pennsylvania's economy. Sportsmen and firearm enthusiasts in the state spend over $2 billion each year and generate $120 million in taxes and over 34,000 jobs. In these difficult economic times, Pennsylvania has the option to save time, resources, and money by using a more efficient national instant check system with absolutely no downside. The states that have converted to NICS have done so very easily, and the transition has been seamless. We would ask that you explore the feasibility of converting to NICS for our background checks. Thank you for allowing me to testify here today.
Thank you. George, we'll have you testify, then the members will have some questions. Note the presence of Senator Fontana, Senator Yaw, Chairman Furlow, as well as Senator Solvay and Representative Stevenson. So we have members who will be going back and forth. And Representative Saccone. One other issue here is, are you going to let George handle all the questions as far as the downtime, or do you have any specific examples for yourself that you could talk about your store?
I do have some examples, but they're going to be redundant as I've reviewed George's.
Got it. George, please feel free to go.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm George Romanoff. I'm the president of Ace Sporting Goods, firearms retailer in Washington County. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I appreciate the opportunity to appear before you today. I am a business owner and licensed firearms dealer, as well as a representative of the interests of my fellow firearms dealers on the issues before us today. As an independent firearms dealer for the past 35 years and an officer of the Pennsylvania Association of Firearms Retailers, I feel that it is extremely important that a background check is initiated on every individual purchasing firearms in the Commonwealth. Our reason for testifying is not to eliminate that need, but to remove the burdensome, duplicative, and costly process that the Pennsylvania State Police have created. The firearms industry in Pennsylvania, with its major components of hunting, target shooting, firearms collecting, and arms for self-protection, provide great economic enhancement to the citizens and businesses of Pennsylvania. In addition, the tax revenue generated by this industry and related sporting ventures is extremely significant. The PICS system has become a nightmare for those of us federally licensed dealers who try to conduct our legitimate businesses. We have experienced over the years periodic shutdowns of the system, especially during peak business hours, weekends, unconscionable delays, inconsistencies from one day to the next, and inconveniences to our customers caused by these shutdowns, and delays at times, the customers being placed in a category of being presumed ineligible to purchase a firearm until he can prove himself worthy to do so by challenging his denial or delayed status. Also, the Pennsylvania State Police have determined that individuals who cannot themselves physically fill out the state form when buying a handgun are ineligible from purchasing that firearm. This is contrary to federal law and a direct violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act. In addition, the loss of revenues to dealers, the cost of staffing to do the checks, and the additional reporting and associated costs affect each dealer's bottom line. Be it a customer who drives 40 miles to our place of business only to be placed in a delayed status, or has to wait 20 to 30 minutes or more for an approval, or face a system being down with no knowledge of when or if it will be back in operation, these occurrences, which transpire on a weekly, if not daily basis, adversely affect our ability to transact business. Customers have left our store under these circumstances without making a purchase. We have had customers placed into a delayed status, leave our store, travel 17 miles to Cabela's in West Virginia and purchase the same long arm and be approved by the PICS system. One customer recently was put into delayed status. The next day, he was approved for a concealed carries permit by the county sheriff's office where he resides. This permit approval goes through the same PICS system as we utilize. It finally took 11 days before his delayed status was changed to an approved one, and he was able to come and return to our store and purchase the firearm. One of our employees was on hold for over 51 minutes while requesting an approval. After that period of time, the customer was put into a delayed status. We ask, why 51 minutes to make that determination? On a previous Tuesday night, May 3rd, the recorded message relayed to us was a wait time of over 20 minutes before an operator could even initiate an attempt to give us an approval. Why the time delay of 20 minutes on an off night with no gun bashes, gun shows, or preseason firearms rush? This caused 2 of my 4 employees at the time to be tied up on the telephone. With a store full of customers, I had no choice but to call in extra help to avoid losing business. At times, we have had up to 5 telephone lines and employees occupied doing background checks. This also prevents incoming calls and our ability to service other customers. I have attached charts listing inordinate delays and shutdowns of the system, encompassing the last couple of months. It seems that the problems have intensified with the additional volume of business that has occurred this year. It appears that the shutdowns are due to an overloaded and understaffed system. If the Pennsylvania State Police would approve concealed carry permits, which are approved through their system, as an alternative to the instant check, as many other states do, this overload would be drastically diminished. Being a large volume dealer, we estimate that it takes 3 to 4 hours a week of clerical time to do reporting of sales. If a customer purchases more than 1 handgun at a time, he has to fill out the same Pennsylvania State handgun form repeatedly for each of the handguns he purchases. Each form has a place for the firearm's description. The state police do not allow one form with an addendum to be filled out, as does alcohol, tobacco, and firearms on their forms. The time consumption and the cost to firearms dealers is outrageous. We estimate that our labor costs alone average over $40 per transaction, with a high percentage of this cost attributed to the procedures and lack of expedience of the Pennsylvania State Police's instant check system. In closing, we, the dealers of Pennsylvania, only want a system that complements our ability to conduct commerce in a professional manner. Unfortunately, we have a system that is counterproductive, inconsistent, and unfair to the residents and business owners of Pennsylvania. The National InstaCheck system provides legitimate alternatives. Not only would it save our customers a minimum